I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical. I should be allowed to glue my poster. I should be allowed to think. I should be allowed to glue my poster. I should be allowed to think. I should be allowed to think. I should be allowed to think.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another showing of the Atheist Experience. I'm your host today, Ashley Perrien, and my oddly feeling co-host today, Martin Wagner.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah, nice to have the chairs reversed here.
This doesn't feel right.
No, it feels fine to me. I'm just sort of like, I just sit here and, chill.
Enjoy. Enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me back on the show.
You are more than welcome.
Yeah.
So Martin was the host of the show for about 2 years, wasn't it?
I think 2.5 years as host and a year and a half before that as co-host.
Okay. And then hosted the show for all that time. I was a co-host for about 2 years or so. Mm-hmm. And then around in February.
End of February. That was it.
You cut it short and said, taking off.
Yeah. So. Well, career stuff was starting to pick up.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, here's some opportunities are coming my way, and I'm going to need my weekends back. And a little more flexibility. And so, I kind of pulled out. But now, lately, now that I'm sort of in that groove, I have found myself now and again missing.
Managed to scrape up a little time.
Yeah, you kind of miss it after a while, sort of getting in the ring and, and going a few rounds. It's
definitely. So,
but
welcome back.
It's just sort of like, I'm back in the studio and
it's all reminiscing.
It's like there's that stain on the wall. It's like.
All right. Anyway, welcome back. We are the Atheist Experience, and we are being sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets, which is on 6th Street, a couple blocks west of Lamar. Those start around 11:30 and go until around 1:30, 2 o'clock. It's a very open, very informal, very social meeting. Any atheist-friendly people more than welcome to come down and meet some of the TV cast and crew and other ACA members in general. Usually a very good time, and like I say, more than welcome to come on down. That's every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets. Save the third Sunday of the month when we have our lecture series at the Austin History Center on 9th and Guadalupe. That starts at 12:30. It's a third Sunday of the month, which I don't have the date in front of me. I believe it'll be, the 21st, November 21st. I keep forgetting to print out the material on who is actually the speaker that week.
It's somebody that I don't remember the name either, but the subject is on, could Darwin have gotten it wrong or something like that?
Okay,
or
yes.
Is there, is there something else that we aren't looking at?
Questioning Darwin, perhaps, or something along this.
But it's on the homepage of the site, our site, I believe, the name of the person and the time.
Atheist-Community.org. They will have information there and details on time, place, and so forth. That's the third Sunday of every month, Austin History Center, 9th and Guadalupe. Other regular events that we have scheduled as the ACA, every Thursday at 7:30 at Antonio's Tex-Mex, we have Atheist Happy Hour. That's on the southbound feeder of I-35, just south of 183. That is very much like the Sunday meeting, very open, very informal. Atheist-friendly people, ACA members, more than welcome to come down there. Again, Antonio's Tex-Mex, 7:30s. On Thursday. Also, every other Saturday, a couple members have an internet audio show called The Non-Prophets. That's hosted by Jeff D. and produced by Russell Glasser, and the co-host on that is Dennis Loubet. That's every other Saturday. I believe their next one is going to be next Saturday on the 14th.
Okay. That's saying 20th on the screen.
The 20th?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So they might have actually had one yesterday. But if you go to our website, again, atheist-community.org, they have a link to our radio show, Non-Prophets, there, and they have about the last half dozen or so episodes that you can download. It's an MP3 stream. And the actual show, when it plays, is on atheistnetwork.com. You can go there and listen to a live stream. All right, as for regular announcements, I believe that is about it. So, welcome back to the Atheist Experience. This is November 7th, And we are live. We're going to take calls in a little while. First, we're going to go over to Martin Wagner. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
And see what you got to say.
Again, nice to be back. It kind of feels strange, but and at the same time, it kind of feels like I never left. It was sort of,
you get back in that groove quick.
Yeah, February wasn't that long ago, I guess. Yeah. But the world has been very active in the last few months, especially in the last week. So
yes, it has.
So, but we're all just now moving on, and when I spoke to you I think the earliest that I spoke to you after I left the show, because I had gone off. I'd done some film stuff. I was assistant director on an independent feature that shot here in town in the spring, and then I worked on some commercials and a bunch of stuff. I did a show for VH1, that kind of thing. Just basic crew work of just as it comes by. In addition to storyboarding, apparently a lot of people locally in Austin film have found out that I can draw, and so that's turned out to be a thing that has kept me very busy.
Okay.
But I spoke to you, I think, like late in the spring or early in the summer, and you had told me about how the format of the show had changed a little bit.
Yeah.
After I left, you were doing something that was more like presentation-oriented.
Yeah, co-hosts typically bring in some kind of presentation of some kind, if possible.
Right. Well, I only got the call this morning to come on and fill it. No, it was fine. I mean, I needed to get up, and that was good, But I managed in the hours intervening to whip up a little presentation of something that had actually been on my mind for some time, as something that would be fun to do if I ever went back on the show as a guest or something.
Okay.
And there was some discussion not long ago on our mailing list about. It wasn't like a huge thread, but some of the guys like Stephen Rogers and the rest of us were talking about how it is that it's difficult to debate often with Christians because you are literally encountering people who have different ways of thinking about stuff than we do.
The whole worldview is different.
Yeah, but not just the worldview, their whole method of approaching questions and difficult issues and dealing with them and trying to sort them out and think about them is just different in fundamental ways. Okay. And it occurred to me because I was thinking back on my adolescence, church-going adolescence, and young Christians, especially teens, and of course there's always this huge push among evangelicals to hit the teen thing.
Yes.
They're like having these big music festivals now and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Christian rock.
But Christian teens ask a lot of the same questions about Christian beliefs that atheists ask because these are just common sense questions. But I think what happens is that and specifically what I remember from my church years is that either having a difficult question brushed off by saying that's a stupid question, or just not getting either an evasive answer or just a non-answer that tap dances around the central issue.
Yeah.
And that goes on a lot. With the difference being that Christian youth aren't equipped with the tools of critical thinking to know how to challenge these, to recognize that they're even getting a non-answer or a bad answer that doesn't work.
Yeah. I remember I used to get the same kind of things when I would ask stuff.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't experienced in how to think and how to debate, I remember that kind of makes some sense. Yeah. Still kind of scratching my head, but I think I get what you're saying. And then I'd go off and then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and the next morning I'd say, hey, that doesn't make any sense at all. After I had some time to mull it over, I didn't know exactly why it didn't make sense. It just didn't.
Yeah. So what I had found recently at, I'm not going to tell you where, we can't do commercial mentions anyway, but I had read something on the news some time ago about this Christian publishing outfit that was going to do teen versions of the New Testament.
Yep.
And done in the format of teen magazines.
Okay.
And I saw some of these actually, and I managed to get some. I wasn't going to buy the thing, but I managed to get some excerpts from one of them. I found it at a store near me. That's a secular store, not a Christian book, because I'm sure these things are all over Christian bookstores. But anyway, there is this version that's for girls, for chicks, right? And and this one's called Revolve. This is like the girl version
Do you want to block where we got this from?
Okay, fine. There. You can't see. So this is like Revolve, and it's got, are you dating a godly guy? All these, burning questions for Americans youth today. And there's also a version for guys, and the guys version is called Refuel. And it's got like all these,
motorbike.
Yeah, they're like chock full of. You see, this has all sorts of pastel-y graphics on it, and the guy's version has it's all like video gamey looking and stuff on fire and what have you. And what it is, quite literally, and I'll hold this up as an example of a page. And of course, every page doesn't look like this, but as you can see, now the body copy here. This is all the scripture, right? This is actual New Testament scripture in some
old New Testament
contemporary translation. And these are like very magazine-y sidebars, right? And the magazine is several hundred pages long. I mean, it's like that thick. And it's chock full of this kind of content. And you see this little segment over here. Sorry, faked you out in the control room. This little section here called Blab, right? Now, these are the questions. And this is a recurring feature. There are also like intermittent features I didn't bring examples of. There's like a calendar, and there's like questionnaires like, what kind of friend are you? Do you gossip? And,
Are you a godly friend?
Yeah. Now, when I went back today to get all this, the guy's version was gone. It was no longer on the racks. I don't think it's sold because these things are way overpriced. And it's like I went a few days ago, they were there, and not today they're not. So I figured that it got pulled, to make way for the new PS2 magazine or something. But this one was still here, but I remember looking through the guy's version, Refuel. The questions, and I don't know if it was called Blab in their section because that's kind of
it's kind of
not guyish. So it was probably
guys don't blab
called something else, right? But they had a similar section like this with these Q&As.
Okay.
And in the Refuel, right, the questions seemed a little more theologically oriented.
Okay.
With the occasional one that has to do with partying, like, why did God make weed if he didn't want us to get high? Which I thought that's an actual question. And it said something like, well, just because God made something doesn't mean that people won't abuse it. When, seems to me, well, how do they know that God didn't want people to get high on the weed? Maybe he was totally aware of, put a little more THC in this and give you a nice buzz. Yeah.
That's what God did on the seventh day.
Heavenly gold, yeah. So, anyway, so there's that. But so I had that magazine been there, I would have been able to bring you specific examples. But I just wanted to read through some of this. This will be my presentation. It's a little bit more, just for giggles and grins, because I think a lot of our core audience might have been spending last week a little bit depressed with election results and what have you. And so I thought this would be something to cheer you up. Although not necessarily, because when you think about it, I mean, the people who are like into this, here's Chick Track, got one on my car last night.
Yay.
And in fact, I got a whole bunch, so here you go, Chick. I was going to go through the whole parking lot and get all of them, but then I thought, well, what do I need with 150 copies of This Was Your Life? So I just thought I'd bring some here in the studio and pass them out. The people who, like, here's a little image from the Chick Track.
Priceless.
You see, I like this one. The guy sort of like, da-da-da, flying through space and the angel. Okay, the people who won this election are the ones who believe that that's like real. Okay, so maybe
they take this stuff as true. Maybe
this won't cheer us up anyway. But here you go. So
have another track.
But okay, here are just some choice nuggets from Revolve. Right? Okay. So here's some Blab stuff. Right? Did God make the world in 6 literal days? Okay.
A very valid question.
We don't have a solid answer, says the answer. It is a matter of faith and science.
Okay.
No.
Where's the science?
There's nothing scientific about the notion that God made a planet, that this invisible magic being made a planet in 6 days. Okay?
Yes.
But some choose to believe that every word in the English Bible is literal. Therefore, a day. Yeah, so like somehow in the translation from whatever it was originally to Greek, through Old English, through Elizabethan English to English, suddenly it became literal at one point.
Exactly.
Therefore, a day equals 24 hours. And why can't God create the earth in just 7 days? He's God. Others say that in the original language, a day could have been a longer time. So there's an example of that. Now, here's another one. Oh, this is interesting. My mom says I can't get a tattoo because it's wrong, she says. So where's that in the Bible? And the answer is, don't argue with your mom. That said, here's what she's talking about. Leviticus 19:28. You ready? You must not, ... put tattoo marks on yourselves. I am the Lord. Okay, now that, setting aside the fact that's a non sequitur, but hang on. What about this, though? Here's a question.
That's the ultimate power trip.
Okay, now this is from page 306, but if you go back to page 85, here's another question from Blab. I really, really want to get a tattoo, but what does the Bible say about them? Is it against God? So, in the Old Testament law, tattoos were forbidden. But when Christ came, he redeemed us from the curse of the law, Galatians 3. This means that now God looks at your heart, your motives, when it comes to what you do. Check with your parents and follow their advice. Okay,
interesting.
So either it's not okay, or it's okay as long as your parents say it's okay. Which is it? Don't know.
Was that the big book of multiple choice?
The big book of multiple choice, right here. We've got it. And let's see, here we go. My friend thinks that she's fat, but she isn't. She stopped eating, so she lost 25 pounds in like 1 or 2 months. Bitch. No, it doesn't say that. Okay, sorry. What can I do? Okay, answer. Pray! Pray with her! Pray with friends! See, this is the repeated. I know I'm being really mean to this man because it's dumb, right? But this you start seeing this pattern recurring amongst the answers, right? It's like, the impression that you get when you look through this magazine is, the world is like a big scary place full of scary stuff that I don't know how to handle. But all you got to do is just pray or trust God or put all your problems on God's shoulders and all will be well and fine. Okay. Yeah, and everything. And so in the end, you just don't got to worry about nothing. That's the ultimate message that you get. But now here is one. Now here are a couple that are actually, here's an example of evading the issue. Okay. My best friend died a couple months back. She was only 18 and not a Christian. I'm still struggling with it. And am drifting further and further from God. Help! Answer. You are going through the grieving process. It's normal to be mad when someone you love dies. You need to talk to a grief counselor to help you through this time. God is your refuge and strength. He is there for you to run to, and he provides other people to be his arms around you. He will lift you up and provide you with comfort. Okay, what's left out of that?
What's happening to the friend?
Yeah. Yeah,
what did God do to this poor non-Christian friend?
By the way, your non-Christian friend is like frying forever in hell because she didn't join the Jesus fan club, so she's burning right now.
I'm listening to her sizzle as we speak.
Yeah.
Pop. Ooh, there she goes.
But God is your refuge and strength. See, so all is well. Some other sidebars here. I'll get back to some more blabs in a minute. but of course, this is like, a magazine for girls, right? So they're trying to like be the Christian, 17 or whatever the big teen girl magazine is right now. I don't know. 17 might be passé because it's like 17 was around when your mom was 17, and that's like so not cool. So
don't know how well they've kept up with the times.
Beauty secret. Yeah, that was saying. Ways to make your skin shine. Do you want to look happy, healthy, and glowing? Remember that because Christ lives in you, his light is to shine through you for the entire world to see. So your face should have a glow that comes from the joy of the Lord, a glow that is beyond compare. Okay. But if you have zits, it doesn't tell you what to do about it. And I guess if you're all zitty, can you have a godly Jesus-y shine if you...
God shines better with oil of Olay.
Okay, that could be it. And with benzoyl peroxide, too, I imagine. So let's see some more of this stuff here. Let's just go back to Beauty Secret. Spiritual facials.
Pray.
Should we just leave that one alone? Yeah. Sort of. We'll just leave that one alone.
Just not touch that.
No, thank you. Oh my. Okay.
I have an awful lot of those blabs.
It's just, we're just blabbing all over the place. Let's see.
No, this isn't a monthly magazine, apparently.
No, it's one.
So who are all these people that are writing into a magazine which isn't?
Well, these aren't written in. These aren't like letters to the editor or anything. These are, I guess, are just.
These are the editors
an editorial
making up
staff
questions.
Sat around and like maybe they got some teens in. Or maybe they took like some polling thing through various churches and youth groups in advance and got the answers.
What can I do about tattoos?
Yeah, must have been. See, that's what I'm thinking they probably did. They probably did some sort of advanced survey. They went to like youth groups and stuff like that and said, what are some questions that you would have? And then here are the common questions. There's some just other real goodies here. Actually, there's another disturbing one from this other page I forgot about.
There's so many of them.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Gosh darn it. One about...
Check it out, Salvation Army.
Does God really know everything? Yep, he knows everything. See, that was a quick answer. Okay, now, see if your irony meters don't blow out of the back of your skull with this one. My friend believes in aliens. She is totally convinced they exist. What does the Bible say about aliens? How do I talk to her about them? Okay. The Bible doesn't say anything about aliens. Some things that means there aren't any. If God can make people on this planet, there's no reason to think he can't make them on other planets and other galaxies. But don't start arguments about little things that make no difference in your relationship with others. Just don't even concern yourself with it. They might exist, they might not. That doesn't affect your relationship with Christ or his love for the people of this earth. Okay. Perfect example of evading the issue. Okay. Well, you could just reword this question very easily, couldn't you? My friend believes in God.
Yep.
My friend believes in this invisible magic man who snaps his fingers, creates universes, and makes all this other magical stuff happen. She's totally convinced that he exists. How do I talk to her about this invisible friend? Yeah. My goodness. Irony is never far from evangelism, I tell you. Okay, now here's the other creepy one. Okay. But do you see this whole idea? It's what's going on with this magazine are just these non-answers that evade the core issue of what some of these questions are about.
Just get back to the feel-good stuff.
Yeah, it's all about, it all comes down to faith in the end. Once again, I wish that I had managed to get a copy of the Guys magazine because there were more, the questions in the Q&A section were more theologically oriented in the Guys version of the magazine than they are here in the Girls version, which I don't know if that speaks of a sort of a subtextual sexism. Yeah. That girls are just less interested in the important stuff.
A good biblical-based guy could go on to become a priest, and so he needs these theological things.
I guess so.
A woman's not going to do that.
That's very well, but this is
according to
certain denominations.
Sect,
Right. So you would think if there was one truth, there would be. Okay. Here's another one. This one's the way they handle this is dubious at best. A member of my family recently molested me. I'm very confused. I think it's my fault. I need all the help I can get. Okay, now that's a serious question.
Yeah.
And it's not your fault. Please find someone to tell. Okay, you need to talk to a counselor or a pastor. Cling to God and he will see you through. It's like, and while you're clinging, ask him why he wasn't watching over and protecting you from this, But don't despise your life because this episode does not define you. The first steps in dealing with this are forgiveness.
I have a hard time saying just forgive him.
No, yeah. I mean, there is no need for anyone for whom that happens to feel like they need to forgive the person who did it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you live with bitterness and vindictiveness all your life, but you definitely see to it that this person is punished. But here you go. If you have been molested, you should call your pastor or local police office to talk about it right away. Pastor or local police office?
Yeah.
No, we're talking about a felony.
Yes.
Okay. What you do with felonies is you call the police and you report them and you press charges.
Exactly.
Okay. Calling the police it's not like an or thing you do, and you call your pastor first. Yeah. Okay. Now
you call the police so that this guy can be stopped and not do this to anybody else.
But this is, I think, is what is really reprehensible about this answer. Right? Is again, it is. This is why I think that these probably were questions submitted by real teens, because this kind of has a personal bent to it. But again, it's this whole idea of, here's somebody in the most emotionally vulnerable and damaged state she can be in.
Yeah.
And they're telling her, okay, first thing is shore up your religious belief. Yeah. Okay. First thing is shore up the religion.
Yeah.
Okay. Retreat into that because, no matter what happens to you, the religion has to be the thing that comes through looking like $1 million, right? So don't question why God didn't protect you from the rapist. Just cling to him when you're hurting, okay? And it puts pastor first, police second in the people you should call, and it lists police as an option.
Okay.
Call your pastor or local police.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's not funny. That's just bad news. But it's this whole idea of, you must
Yeah.
Rely on the religion must involve 100% of your life.
Yeah.
And the belief system.
Religion has always gone after the most vulnerable of people, kids, the elderly, stuff like that. So they're just doing the same thing. Go after those who are weak.
Spiritual
in some way.
facials. Actually, the subtext here: the fire of God's love burns out the sin, the same way the hot steam routs the dirt out of your pores. Then clean your heart with prayer and cool down in the shade under God's wings. Boy, that's hot stuff. Oh, yeah. All right. But then, here's just like some others. Okay, here we go. Back to some funnier stuff. When I was younger, I did some really bad stuff. Now that I'm a Christian, I still can't forgive myself. Can God forgive me even if I can't? Yes! That's why he's God and we aren't. God has a totally cool ability to forgive the worst sins in the world, including you being raped by your family member. Oh, wait, that's not in there, but that's the implication, see, because I'm tying the things together. Anyway, that's what the whole Christ dying on the cross for all the sins of the world was about. So even though you can't do it, he can. So God can forgive that family member who rapes you. And it's totally cool that he has that ability. That's so cool. All you need to do is confess what you did to him. Wait a minute, you did to him?
Yes, you sinned against God.
And then believe him to forgive. But wait a minute, but you did to him?
You sinned against God. You were a bad person to God.
Ah, what, by getting raped, huh?
Apparently, yes.
Oh, dearie me. Okay. Wow. So, shopping tips. Back to beauty secrets. Shopping tips.
What does God say about shopping for shoes?
Well, or just about anything. Make sure that Jesus would be pleased with what you wear. Now, Jesus hung out with prostitutes, so that gives you a lot of latitude. But, since you don't have to look frumpy, thank goodness, because that's like so last year, just make sure you look like a child of God. Now, here's the thing. Imagine him close by as you shop. So, we've all
Jesus watching you in the changing room.
We've all done this, right, guys? We've gone out shopping with women, and you're just sort of like... That's why they invented cell phone video games.
Yes.
Right, because the guys... You know how it is, right? It's just sort of like you're going to try something on.
You're adjusting his phone.
Yeah,
playing Tetris on the phone.
Sending longing looks over at GameSpot. And then she comes out, right? And it's like, okay, now what about this one? Yeah, baby, it looks great. Okay, now wait. I'm going to go try the other one on, and 30 minutes later, okay. What about this one? You look, well, anything looks good on you, honey. I mean, you're fine. I like you in anything. Okay, now do you like this outfit better or the last one? You're like, oh, shit, what'd the last one look like? Can you imagine, like, Jesus sitting in this shop, just in his sandals, his robe, just kind of like, you okay, sir? Yes, I'm fine. Bless you. So imagine Jesus going with you when you shop on your shopping tips, and especially make sure he takes you to Victoria's Secret, because that's where. Yes. Would he be pleased with the outfit you're about to buy? Well, I mean, how can anyone know? It's just it's just sort of like that's a thing. They would just oh yeah, Jesus would love that. Oh, and yes, he'd really like this little bit, and just sort of like.
Jesus loved the tube tops.
This is just how you justify doing anything. Of course, going shopping is perfectly innocent, but it's just sort of like, let's see, crash an airplane into a building to give the infidels. Yes, God would be wonderfully pleased with that plan. Yes, the infidels will wail and gnash teeth. Anything you can justify just by asking, would he be pleased with?
Yeah. ...
whatever it is you're doing. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Bad news again?
Yeah, they're talking about us here, Ashley.
Uh-oh.
I want to know, is it okay to go out with a non-believer? What do you think?
I would have to say absolutely no.
No! You risk getting emotionally involved and influenced by someone who's not listening to God. And so that's really bad. Yeah. Also, you're trying to walk closer and closer to knowing God. That is not the direction they're walking. So to stay together, you will have to stop running after God.
Sounds fine with me.
Well, I mean, some guys got it and some guys ain't. Now here's one that I've always wanted to know. What is going to happen in heaven, or what will we do up there? Yeah, I mean, eternity's a long time, so, what do you do?
Playing the harp and
right.
such. That doesn't sound fun.
All right. Will there be any more hurting, pain, tears, crying, or anything else that is going here on earth? And it says, look through Revelation.
Yeah, that's everything that's happening on earth. Pain, tears, sorrow.
But chapter 21 specifically of Revelation says it's a really great image of heaven. There are huge walls that look like diamonds, and the gates to the wall are giant pearls. The streets are paved with gold. It's totally gorgeous. It's all the absolute best moments in your life put together. No, it's better than that.
It still evades the question, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean...
You're going to sit around and look at diamond walls. Woohoo. They get old pretty quick.
Yeah, or just sort of like 9,603,258, 9,603,259, but a lot of pearls in this wall. And it's sort of like, yeah, what do you then what? Remember back when, and we had the guy who called in, and he mentioned that he had read some book by some, I don't remember the author's name, but he said that this author described a visit that he had paid to heaven.
Okay.
And we were like, what's heaven like? And he was like, oh, well, it's pretty nice. I mean, he said that was his answer. Oh, it was really nice.
Wasn't bad.
Yeah, so I can imagine Christians everywhere watching the program that day were overjoyed to hear that heaven was really nice.
You ever been to Epcot? It's kind of like that.
Yeah. Well, because, think of it. What if you went to heaven, right, and you ended up, getting stuck in an efficiency or something? And that would suck.
It's a heavenly efficiency, though.
Yeah, but, I mean, still, it would suck, But if heaven's pretty nice, that might mean that you would have a good shot at a 3-2 with a garage.
Yeah.
And maybe
back
cable.
patio.
Yeah, cable. It's not so bad. Okay. How do you use the name of the Lord in vain? It's sort of like, I want to know, right?
When is it okay?
Want to get it right.
When is it not okay?
Is it wrong to say God or oh my Lord? I guess God they mean in God, right? Not like in God anytime, because then if you couldn't say it at all, then that would defeat the purpose. But answer, yep, that's considered taking his name in vain. The deal is that you aren't respecting him when you use his name to be surprised, mad, or whatever. So anything. Never use God's name, ever. Never say it. Or like the Monty Python, Life of Brian. Jehovah. In the Bible, the Israelites didn't even dare say his name ever because they respected it so much. The interesting idea about respect.
Yeah.
Remember, whenever you use God's name, you're referring to a real being who controls the universe and who loves you and me. Man.
So don't piss him off.
All right. Finally, now, I mean, we could just do this all day. Just give you another example. Now here is one last one that I want to. Where'd it go? Wait, it's in here somewhere. Getting back on the whole sexual violence issues. A lot of the questions in this girls' version in Revolve deal with those kinds of issues, dating, sexual issues.
Okay.
And in the guys' magazine, there's a lot of that too. But like I said, there is actually more of a theological bent. Even though the answers they still get are the same kind of evasions, non-answers. Like one has to deal, frankly, with the problem of evil. But then why is all this bad stuff? And it gives this answer that's like, well, God didn't create evil. People did. So don't go blaming God for something that people created. That was like the actual gist of the answer. Yeah. Well, setting aside the fact that there is an actual verse where God says,
"Yeah, I created everything, including evil.
I created evil. I, the Lord God, do all these things." I think that's from Isaiah. Again, the evasion is, now hang on, how can these mortal beings, even with free will, do something that an omnipotent, omniscient being doesn't want?
Yeah.
Okay? Omniscience and omnipotence trumps non-omniscience and non-omnipotence every single time.
Yes.
Okay? It's
we cannot do anything that God doesn't like.
Or we shouldn't be able
God
to.
God doesn't want.
We shouldn't be able to, or if God is allowing these things to happen, then He must want them to happen.
Yeah, for some reason.
And some Christians will say, well, yeah, He doesn't, but there's moral justifications for these things.
Of course.
But but then they have to defend those moral justifications, and that's where they fall down. Okay, one more thing on issues. Okay, now this says issues, rape. Okay, again, very sensitive matter, and so how do they handle it? Well, talk about it's a serious crime of violence. If you or a friend has been raped by a stranger family member on a date, you need to tell someone. You have several options, and it talks about, calling. So silence is not a defense against this horrible act of aggression. Please take courage to talk with someone's parents, counselors, teachers, youth pastors about how you've been abused. Now, this is a little bit more level-headed than the other answer from the other page, where it basically said, okay, first, just
call your pastor or the cops.
Cling to God, forgive, and talk to your pastor or the cops. You can talk to the cops if you feel like it, but be sure to call your pastor. So it talks about support groups, and they're available where you'll find other women who understand your pain. So this little sidebar here actually gives some good, sound advice on how to deal with the situation if you're victimized.
Yeah.
But then biblically, there's a problem.
Yes.
Okay?
Several.
Because, well, if you go back, right, to the Old Testament, which this doesn't deal with, right? This is just the New Testament.
Yeah.
Apparently, the New Testament disqualifies the Old Testament, or at least the embarrassing parts that they don't want to talk about. Right. For example, if you go back to chapter 31 of Numbers, well, here you have God, right, who is presumably the same God. And the story at this point is Moses' army is whooping up on the Midianites.
Okay.
Really bad, right? And God tells Moses' army, okay, now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known a man by lying with him. But all the women children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
All the virgin, keep for yourself.
Yeah, so according to, now that's Numbers 31, verses 17 to 18. Okay, women are booty in war. I mean, literally. And, this is encouraging, essentially, taking women by force. And according to Numbers 31, chapter 31, verse 35, Moses' army collected a really nice little harem of 32,000 virgins this way.
Wow.
It's quite a bit of virgins. And then there's Leviticus, right? Now, what does Leviticus say about rape and how to deal with it? Well,
Leviticus is one of those books that you really don't want to touch all that much.
But darn it, it's in this book here.
Yeah,
and they can't.
It's in the holy book.
You just can't pretend that it's not in the book. Well, if you go back to Leviticus 21, 11 to 14, you say, let's see, here we go. Now, neither shall he go into any dead body, nor defile himself or his father. Okay, neither shall he go out of the sanctuary, they're talking about godly men here, nor profane. And he shall take a wife in her virginity, a widow or a divorced woman, or profane, or an harlot. These he shall not take, but shall take a virgin of his own people to wife. Okay, so divorced women who have had children are no longer a qualified wife material. Skipping ahead to chapter 22, though, if we go to verse 22. 23, am I in Leviticus here? Yeah, chapter 22. Okay. 22, 28 to 29. Okay. I think they might have gotten this wrong. Numbers, yeah. Because I got this on the web. Anyway, there is the scripture about if a woman is raped,
yes,
and doesn't cry out loud enough. Okay, she doesn't call out. She will be taken out and stoned to death because she did not cry out.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's also the issue of if a woman is raped, what you got to do is the rapist gets to buy the girl from her father for 50 shekels.
Yes.
And all is well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the biblical way, apparently, of handling this terrible crime of violence. But you're not going to see any mention of that in this book. In Revolve here.
Yeah.
You're not, okay, because the ugly parts of the Bible get swept under the rug.
Exactly.
And, and what you get here is this nice, perfectly secular, solution to how to handle if you're victimized.
Exactly. Here's who to go to and stuff
issues
like that.
rape, and it doesn't, but whatever the Bible has to, don't want that in there. So we'll just not mention what the Bible says on that subject. Yeah. But we'll just tell women to, call their crisis center and do this. And then over here we'll say, call your pastor or police.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. I have often seen one or two of those things in the stores and usually pass them by without having the time to read them.
Now, what's this here? How does this work? Because I haven't seen the monitor since I've been in.
Is this a question? Some of our off-camera oddities that we now have in the studio.
Okay.
Basically, callers and such.
So is that a question from a caller on the top there?
No, that's what they're hopefully going to talk about, perhaps. Potentially.
Well, then
that's our virtual call screener.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm just wondering who's, all right.
Whoever our call screener is back there is transferring it up here.
Oh, very nice. So. And we get the details. See, when I was host, we never had this text stuff.
Exactly.
We just had a little whiteboard saying, Fred, and then there was one word maybe about what he wanted to talk about.
Yes.
So
here we can get a little bit more.
Yeah. So anyway, but this is just an example of how of how Christian youth get these non-answers to various crucial issues. The idea being, just shore up your faith and all will be well.
Yeah.
So
which, as you said, is a non-answer because typically with these things, how do you talk to your friend about aliens? That's the one that just comes to mind.
I know.
The next time the issue comes up, you realize that, I never got an answer to that one, actually. Mm-hmm. I read about it, and it sounded good at the time, but it didn't answer my question, apparently, because now I'm in the same conundrum. Mm-hmm. So...
Right, yeah, apparently. So, but anyway, if you ever stumble upon these, like I said, the girls' edition is called Revolve, the guys' edition is called Refuel, and they're very funny to read, but they're also very revealing in terms of, if you were ever debating a Christian, especially a young Christian, and they're just having a hard time navigating what you're trying to tell them. A lot of it is because of this. They're given these are the answers that they're given to these burning questions. Okay, and they haven't got the critical thinking skills to say, no, but wait a second, if that's true, then like you just get
all of this follows.
I mean, like you get here in the blab section, right? You get Q and A, and then it stops. Yeah. Okay, but the thing is, most of these A's result in more Q's and more. So
yeah. And I see on the cover there, 200 plus blab Q&As.
Yeah, 200 plus, right? And along with
200 questions.
How to get along with your mom and beauty secrets you've never heard before, right? Like take Jesus shopping. So, yeah,
100 plus ways to apply your faith.
Yeah. So, anyway, I just thought that would be an interesting and a little amusing presentation for our atheist viewers and everything. So, and we have I have a few more. Anyway, these chick tracks, I'll just leave them there.
Anyone, take them if you want them. All right. Anyway, phone number is on your screen. We are live today. It's the Atheist Experience. If you got any questions, comments, please go ahead and give us a call. Quick thing before we get to callers, though. We are going to try a new thing with the show. Every now and then, after the show, we're going to be going out to dinner as a group, a whole, some of the cast and crew and such.
The ACA.
We're going to go out to dinner. So if you want to meet us actually after the show, now this is for atheist-friendly people, members of the group, non-members who want to come down and meet some of us, that's fine. It's not a place to come down and debate us. When we're trying to digest on a burger or something,
so
I don't want to have to deal with, more
Well, what we
questions.
have for that purpose on the website are message boards now.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a message board section on the website. You can just go to atheistcommunity.org and click on message boards, and then for various different things, and there's one for the television show.
Okay.
And we've had an Ask an Atheist mailing list on Yahoo groups for a long time, but we never really promoted that.
Yeah, it never gets all that much traffic.
Yeah.
We also have an email address for this TV show if you don't have time to get on the air, tv@atheist-community.org. We get emails there every now and then, answer all of them. Sometimes we'll bring them on the air if there's something good for them. But anyway, this week, after the show, some of us are going to be going down to Players on MLK. It's between 35 and Guadalupe. The show ends at 6 o'clock. We'll probably be getting there around 6:30, 6:45, 7 o'clock, something like that. So if you want to come down and meet some of the cast and crew, you're welcome to do that. And like I said, it'll probably be around 6:45, 7 o'clock or so after the show today, which is Sunday, November 7th, by the way. If you're watching this on Tuesday, don't go out there. Or at least not expecting to meet us. Anyway, thanks for watching. Phone number's on your screen, and we are going to go to, I believe it was, Clifton. You there?
Yes, how you doing?
How you doing?
I like to make a couple comments. I've been listening to y'all for a minute.
Okay.
And you mentioned about a couple times that you said there's no evidence about a God or even being like that. It seemed like while I was listening, it seemed like y'all believe it's a God, y'all just don't want to accept it of being a God because you said there's no evidence. But then you look on the other side too, where the evidence it shows there's no God.
Well, I'm sorry, did you want to start?
Well,
okay. I'm sorry, I'm just I'm back and I'm ready to go.
Think about it, I can show you something that is evidence of God. It is, you don't have to see God to know it's evidence. The evidence is outside of what you're looking at. If man being the smartest animal on earth, and there's some things that we made, and there's some things that we couldn't make at all, it's something being more being than a man, though.
Well, let me go ahead and
right there.
Well, okay. I can decipher that, but let me just go ahead and address your question. There could be gods. There could be all sorts of invisible magic beings. There could be elves and leprechauns. Where is the evidence for these things, and where is the evidence that there are none of these things? The way evidence works is you have to provide evidence for claims that are being made. So what that means is, when you're trying to judge these issues, there's a thing called burden of proof. And the burden of proof is what the person making a claim, a claim about, say, the existence of something, like, I was kidnapped by a UFO. Okay, if somebody comes to you and he makes that claim, well, it's his job to prove to you that he was kidnapped by a UFO. It's not your job to prove to him that he wasn't. So when it comes to questions of whether or not a God exists, well, the people, whether it's the Christian God, whether it's Vishnu, whether it's any sort of deity a particular person believes in, it is up to that person to present other people with the evidence for that being's existence before the other person can rationally say, all right, well, I think that belief in that being is a rational choice. Now, our view is that we have not been presented with evidence of that quality, so we choose to refrain from believing at this time. A lot of times we get asked, well, what sort of evidence would convince you? And I got to be honest with you, I mean, I don't know. But at the same time, it's really not my job. Okay, if Christians really believe that their God exists and that their God is real and that we should believe in their God, then it's up to them to come up with the evidence that will, compel us to believe. And we aren't getting that evidence.
Okay, but I believe Christians have, and then I show evidence, and then it seems like
okay, well,
y'all don't want to accept it.
But what is this evidence? This evidence.
Okay, like if you read the Bible.
Okay, let me stop you right there.
Yeah, it's a book.
We're going to stop you right there. Let me explain why that doesn't work. That's something called a circular argument, right? It's like the Bible says there's a God. Well, how do you know God exists? The Bible says so. How do you know the Bible's true? Because the Bible is God's holy word.
Well, the Bible says thing about going on 1,000 years ago and exists today, though.
Well,
how somebody gonna write something 1,000 or a couple thousand years ago? Now it being fulfilled because it says in the Bible that it's gonna be more wars, and it is today.
Wow.
More wars.
Yeah, there's going to be another war in the history of mankind.
Wow. So the Bible says
it does say it's gonna be more wars, and this is dating that back thousand years ago.
Wow.
You think people?
What a hard prediction that is to make.
I know,
that there would be more wars.
There'll be a war.
You know what? I can make a prediction.
War, though. It's gonna say it's gonna be more war.
You know what I predict, Clifton? I predict that 2,000 years from now, people are going to eat lunch.
So what you saying?
So I must be divine, right?
Okay,
I'm predicting something. I bet you 2,000 years from now, people are going to eat lunch.
Okay, and? So what you saying though?
So he's divine.
So the point is, you're trying to use examples of things that are common in history.
1,000 years though.
All right. The point is, you're trying to use examples of things that are very common events in history, as some sort of evidence that there are supernatural predictive powers to the Bible. Gee whiz, more wars? Who'd have thunk it? That's not terribly impressive.
Wars have been going on for millennia.
There were wars 2,000 years before Christianity, and 2,000 years later, we're still having wars. Looks like wars are part of the fabric of human history. That's not really reaching it.
Atheists came forward and said, it hadn't been no books and no testament or anything about the atheists saying that what's going to happen years, thousand years.
There is now.
Well,
there is now. We have our new deity.
You know what I'm saying?
We have our new deity.
Yes.
And then, like, a lot of people, with that stone they talking about on the state capitol, the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments.
Oh, the 10 Commandments, right.
Okay. Well, if they believe it's no God, why people are so scared? Because they want to remove that thing. Why people so scared? Because
scared of what?
Scared of what?
If you see something you don't believe, you shouldn't be worrying about it, though.
I'm sorry?
If you see something that you don't believe, you shouldn't be worrying about it.
Well, that's not that isn't what is at the issue when it comes to 10 Commandments monuments on public land.
Okay, since you're atheist, you might as well go kill somebody and still.
Why do you say that?
Okay. Because
why?
When man write the laws, these laws are coming from God. God said that should not murder.
No.
Are you familiar with the U.S. Constitution?
That would make it the days of the week.
Clifton, it's our turn. Okay, are you familiar with the U.S. Constitution? The Constitution of our land states that our laws come from the people, by the people, and for the people. Okay, the Constitution, the laws of our land come from a document that was the first document in history that set up a secular government, that human beings came up with these laws. Okay, if you need a God to tell you what laws are, it seems to me that you lack a basic understanding of human behavior and why things are good or bad.
Yeah.
Okay,
there are very good, sound, logical reasons why we don't want to kill, steal, murder, and all these kind of bad things that are out there. Yeah. We don't do it because God says so. Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, and
there's a bit more to it than that.
I just gave you an example, right, of God here in in the book of Numbers, commanding his armies to go out, massacre an entire town, kill every male among the little ones, children, kill every woman that hath known a man by lying with him, but all the women children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. Okay, well, if that's a law that your God put out, if that's a rule that is okay with your God, seems to me maybe, Clifton, that you should be doing that.
Well, we were taught to obey God.
Okay, well then seems to me...
Then you should obey this commandment then, apparently.
Murder.
Oh, wait a minute. So it's not murder. It's not murder to kill children.
Murder means when you go out kill somebody on self, and not a self-defense, but murder is when you kill somebody unintentionally, though.
Why don't you talk more slowly, and maybe you can get a coherent sentence out. Yeah.
What this is talking about, this is in the Bible.
Yeah.
God said, go out and kill all the women, all the children, all the men. Keep the virgins for yourself.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
I never seen no verse talking about he said go out and kill women and children, though.
Then it's not our problem if you haven't read the Bible.
Numbers 31, it's chapter 31 of Numbers. You can read it yourself.
Yeah.
So, but if God said it,
so must be okay.
Must be okay.
So why aren't you doing that? I mean, these are God's laws. God has said this is an okay, permissible act.
You gotta, what's that word, Christina? Damn, it's a word. When you read something, you gotta interpret it of what God's talking about.
I see. Oh, yes. I think the word you're looking for is
spin. You just can't read the Bible, and you gotta learn. See, when we go to Bible study, to Bible study to interpret it of what He's talking about.
Yes.
You gotta understand what He's talking about.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the no spin zone here. This is the real no spin zone. Okay. Yeah. Interpreting means spin. That means if the Bible says something that you find embarrassing, you interpret it so it no longer means the embarrassing thing.
But you don't know what He's talking about, though. So you're telling me that you don't know what He's talking about.
I just gave you a verse.
We just gave a quote.
I just gave you a verse that you claimed didn't exist.
But interpret it. What God was
I see. So I have to interpret this in such a way so that kidnapping 32,000 virgins is morally acceptable. I have to interpret this in such a way so that I accept rape. I have to interpret this in such a way so that it becomes okay to kill every male child. I have to interpret this in such a way so that it becomes okay to kill every woman who has had a child or has had sex. I have to interpret it so that those things become morally okay.
And you know what? You just read one verse. You know you got to read the whole thing, too. You just can't read one verse.
Yeah, okay, well,
See, that's the problem. A lot of people just read one verse.
Do you have something in there?
You gotta read the whole thing.
Do you have something in there that makes it okay, then?
Yeah, I mean, I assume you're talking about context.
I can't answer that question because, number one, I got to read the whole thing of what God's talking about. You're just reading one verse.
Okay, so we know more about what's in your Bible than you do. We've ascertained that.
You got to read something before that. Maybe God was explaining to somebody or what happened or what's going on. So you're just reading one verse. One verse ain't going to cut it.
So then what you're claiming is that there is a context, that there is such a thing as a context in which abducting 32,000 virgins becomes acceptable. And we're just not understanding the context.
You got to understand what God's talking about.
Okay, that's just what you said. You just said.
You can't read one verse.
You just said that there is some context, apparently, something before or after that verse written.
No, I did not say that.
That's what you said. There's something before or after that explains it.
No, I said when you read a Bible verse, you got to interpret it, and then you got to read the whole thing. You just can't read one verse.
Exactly. So there's something. The whole thing. So there's something before or after this verse that explains it and makes it sound okay. There is some verse in there.
I found something. This comes right before. Apparently, the rest of the prey that the men of war had caught, 675,000 sheep, 12,000 beeves, I guess that's cattle, 1,000 asses.
Okay, so they needed the women to take care of the animals.
Maybe that's it, yeah. But still, you're talking about kidnapping people. But,
yeah, kidnapping and slavery, but at least it's getting better.
Yeah, well, again, unless, of course, they had other plans for the sheep and the cattle. But again, I have trouble with this notion that, all right, you're just reading one verse. You're not taking the context and you're not interpreting it correctly, because apparently there exists such a thing as a context in which killing every male among the little ones and every woman that hath known a man by lying with him becomes an acceptable act.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, even today, in a time of war, right? Like, we're at war in Iraq.
Yes.
Okay? But you know what happened when the pictures came from the Abu Ghraib prison?
Exactly.
Of, our people torturing the Iraqi prisoners? That was outrage.
Exactly.
Now, imagine if you had a situation where the American army goes into some Iraqi town, kills every male child, okay, and kills every non-virgin woman, and takes all the virgin Iraqi girls for themselves.
And you just about said
what do you
before,
think
they
the
had taken
reaction
all the
would be?
count.
You know, what do you think the reaction would be worldwide? And do you think that Bush or whoever or Rumsfeld would be able to come on television and say, oh, but you have to understand the context of that battle to understand why it is now acceptable for our men to have done those things?
Exactly.
You
exactly.
See? Right. Anyway.
Did you have anything else for us?
And then, how you noticing? Well, I meet an atheist. I met atheists a couple of times before. Mm-hmm. They start believing in God. But I never met anybody that believed in God and then, they turned to an atheist.
I've known a few.
I was quite an avid church-going youth.
It seems like once you believe in God, people don't start believing in God even though they don't step of.
Yeah, well, I was a very active church-going atheist. I mean, a church-going, soon-to-be atheist. I have very fond memories.
One of the earlier co-hosts on this show. One of the earlier co-hosts on this show before I took over as co-host, actually, was a guy named David Clark. And he actually went to seminary school. He was studying to be a priest.
He performed baptisms?
At a Bible school. Yeah. He obviously believed and studied a lot about the Word of God and the Holy Book. And then he went on to co-host the Atheist Experience.
Yeah, that's saying that he don't accept God no more. That's what he said.
That's exactly what it's saying.
That's exactly right, because...
So he believes it's a God. He just don't accept God.
No, he does not.
He did it one time.
He did it one time, yeah.
And then he analyzed this religion, and he changed his mind.
He don't accept God.
And he changed his mind.
Right. So he believes...
After looking at the utter lack of evidence for any form of a God, he said, nope, not
or the brilliant arguments he was getting.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, Clifton, we do appreciate your call, and call us back and hit us with more sometime, okay?
Yeah, go ahead and keep watching the show, and like I said, if you have any more questions, give us a call some other time.
Call us up and straighten us out.
Okay, talk to you later. All right. Welcome back.
Interpreting.
Yeah.
We get that quite a bit, don't we?
The interpretation bit.
The taking it out of context charge.
Yeah.
Okay. Can there be, now, talking seriously for a minute though, can there be such a thing as a context in which an action that would be morally objectionable can be justified?
Depending on the action, of course.
Well, I would say yes, and not necessarily even depending on the action.
Okay.
I mean... Well, yes, I can. I mean, in this situation, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't think of one that would justify 32,000.
Yeah, or like killing millions of infants, right? So exactly. I don't know of a context where oh no, all is lost unless you do this thing, right? But if you have a situation where, war is full of these. The whole, we had to destroy the town in order to save it. Remember that famous incident in Vietnam and what have you. And you don't always make the right decisions, but sometimes decisions can be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And, that is just the way reality is. And the way you deal with those situations is through the use of reason. You rationally judge all of the circumstances that you're presented with, and you try to make the best decision you can make based upon a rational consideration. Okay? And that presents a real problem for moral absolutists, right?
Yeah.
Because, and again, I don't know about Clifton. I don't know that Clifton's sophistication is up to the point where he can judge, can really evaluate these conundrums, right? Yeah. But a lot of the Christians who are fundamentalist Christians who are moral absolutists, they're like, okay, God made the rules and God says what's right and wrong, and it's this list of stuff.
Yeah.
And these can never be deviated from. Okay, there's this thing called absolute morality.
Yeah.
These are the same people who will say when you bring up these little problems in the Bible, like this passage from Numbers, or these really appalling laws from Leviticus, or the thing in Second Kings with God sending the bears to massacre the children.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's all open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you've got to interpret what the Bible's saying.
The context is there.
Yeah.
You can't just say that killing is wrong. In this case, in this context, the killing was okay.
Well, you can if you're not a moral absolutist.
Of course.
Okay. But then you have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
I mean, can you ever think of a case in which there is an acceptable context for taking a life? I can, right away. right? Okay, you have someone breaks into your home, some lunatic.
Self-defense.
Threatening your family.
Yeah.
Okay, kill him before he kills the family. I think most people would not have a problem with that. Yeah. Okay, but all right, we're an invading army, and we're going to really take on the Midianites here, and once we've dealt with their army, okay, who are the people who are actually raising up arms against us,
fighting.
Yeah, then we're going to go and wipe out all the babies and women.
Yeah.
Okay,
and the cattle.
Just cause, right? Yeah. And the cattle, and no, we're going to capture the cattle and capture the sheep and capture the virgins. And I guess they'll throw dice to see who gets a sheep and who gets a virgin, I suppose. Who knows? Oh, you can't resist a good sheep joke. You can't. But again, now, suddenly, there's all kinds of stuff in Scripture that, to a modern sensibility, is appalling morally. But again, the only way, as we've seen with Clifton, that Christians can deal with this is you interpret. Yeah. Or spin. That's how it works. So.
Welcome to the Atheist Experience, the no-spin zone.
So,
all right. Anyway, phone number is on your screen. We are live today, November 7th, so go ahead and give us a call if you got any questions. We have got Tony on the line. You there?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Pretty well.
We're all good.
What you got?
Hey, it's good for open discussion on, what you guys believe and what everybody believes out there, and so it's good to have an opportunity to talk to you guys. I could just tell you, basically, I've been on the other side of not knowing the truth at one time in my life, and being in the darkness and not knowing the truth. And in the Bible it says natural man don't understand the things of God. It has to be spiritually discerned. Mm-hmm. Faith is the substance of understanding things and looking at it with the Spirit of God and understanding the spirit things of God. Natural man will always tend to look at things on a natural perspective that deal with the world's views and what the world looks at.
Okay.
All I could say is that, like when you're, when you're trying to understand things, you have to be like a little child before you accept Christ in your life. When you come to Him as a child, mm-hmm. Yep. and He gives you His Spirit.
Wouldn't it be better though?
Okay, go ahead.
Wouldn't it be better?
I was going to finish, but go ahead.
Okay, but just stop it quick. Wouldn't it be better to go into the world, though, with a rational mind and looking at what the world actually holds and what we know for a fact to be true, and use that to base our decisions on, rather than asking a God, which we don't really have any good or solid evidence for. We don't know that it's out there, and so it could be God, or it could be brain chemistry.
Okay.
I'm not too sure which of those it is.
Right.
So why not look to science, for instance, to say, let's find out what the best decisions here are.
Okay,
look at actual consequences.
I'm sorry. Actually, the only thing I could tell you is, I could tell you from a personal standpoint of religion and all the things that you think the Bible and all this other stuff, those are God's words for a reason. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a deeper level than science and logic and everything else. When I came and I gave my life to Christ, it's a relationship. It's a relationship that you get, you are adopted into the family, that He died for your sins, He was buried, and on the third day He rose from the dead, and that He's giving you that same resurrection spirit that's alive in you, and you're adopted into the family. And it's a relationship. Right. And once you have that relationship, He reveals Himself in truth to you, where you could understand the things of God, where they enlighten you, where you've never known it before. It's like being on the outside of things, trying to look in and not understand them. It's like shutting the door, and you're on one side, and on the other side there's light.
Yeah,
you open the door.
Yeah,
you walk into the light, and you can understand.
Okay. Right, Tony, let me just bounce something off you really quickly. You are aware that there are a number of other religions practiced in the world. In fact, there are, I think, something like 2,000 active religions practiced in the world, right? And in every single one of these, you can find people to make the same sorts of testimonials that you're making, right? I mean, you can find people who are Hindu, Zoroastrian, Baha'i, and who don't follow the Christian faith as you do, and they'll make exactly the same sorts of statements about how the fulfillment that they get from their beliefs that you're making. Okay. Now, does this tell me? Now, you have to understand that you're right. Those of us on the outside looking in, does this tell us anything about the truth of that belief, or does it just tell us that this is a belief that has a very strong emotional appeal for the people who adopt it? I mean, we don't deny that people who adopt a particular faith, whether it's Christianity, Islam, Shintoism, whatever faith they adopt, we don't deny that they get a great deal of personal fulfillment from holding that belief. But does that person's individual level of fulfillment present us with anything in the way of good hard evidence for that belief? It really doesn't. All that it proves to us is that here's a person that we're talking to, like yourself, who has received a great deal of fulfillment from the belief system, but it doesn't tell us anything about the truth or the falsehood of whether or not the claims of that belief system are verifiable.
Okay. First of all, the one thing is that the relationship with Jesus as being a Christian, okay?
Yeah. No,
what separates that from any other religion is that he was the Son of God and he lived a perfect life, and he was the only one without sin that died for humanity. And the only way to get into the kingdom is through the cross of Jesus.
Well, okay, and like
Second
I said,
of all, I'm just responding to the way that you talked and what you said, and I'm just trying to get a fair.
Okay, well, no, go ahead and do your whole and finish,
and then,
please.
And the difference is that if somebody gives you a cup of water and you're on a dry and hot desert island, you have two choices. You could taste to see if it satisfies, or you could say, I don't want it. And you see, once you taste that Jesus is real and he's alive and he reveals himself to you and he fulfills every single thing in your heart and you're complete, you don't have to taste anything else. And you know what? Throughout the time
you're good. You ought to try a ministry
career. Throughout the time of life, in life, you'll go through life trying to fill yourself with the void in your heart, with everything that this world has got to offer you, and it's never enough. You want more, and more. And the only thing that will ever satisfy you is Christ.
Let's go get back to it.
I'm so surprised listening to this guy.
If you taste it, you'll never believe it.
Let's go back to the discussion.
Let's stop. Okay. Right. I understand. Okay. We have heard this, Tony. We understand. I mean, and this, what we're hearing you say as you're giving us your testimonial, and it's really good. I mean, we really think that you ought to have, try a career in the ministry because you're good. Is that, this whole, listen to the key words that you're using: void in your heart, wandering through a desert island. This assumption that you have to understand, here's how atheists are. Okay, we're just folks trying to live our lives and have a good time, and religion is this thing that people keep putting in our way, okay, to say, no, without this, your life is desolate and meaningless. And we're like, well, no, we're doing just fine. They're like, no, this presumption that life is an empty void and what have you. Well, no, I mean, there is this big, wonderful world out there. We get to live in it for a certain number of years. Every day is precious, and you make the most of it. And I think that is, but when you listen to Christian testimonials, you do get a recurring pattern that they form, which is, here's an individual whose outlook on life was one of utter misery and woe, okay, but then they have found this relationship with Jesus, and now everything's okay. Yeah. It's like, my life sucked, but now it doesn't. Yeah. And so at this point, you have to ask, well, what about a person who is, more or less happy, content, gets by day to day, has a career that they're satisfied with? Yeah. What does
friends, family?
Yeah. What do these beliefs have to offer a person like that? Doesn't sound like much, right? I mean, if it's solely this whole thing of, my life is a desert island and I'm in a void, and so I need something to get out of the void. Well, but if your life isn't like that in the first place,
And again, it going back to what you were saying before, it doesn't say anything about the truth of Christianity, for instance, when, again, you've got Muslims and other people out there saying pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I was an empty, dull shell of a person until Allah came into my life, and now I have meaning and purpose.
And now, Christianity...
Does that mean that Allah is real? Or does it mean that Christianity is real? Or does it mean that Buddhism is real?
I've talked to people who are space alien believers, who are of the type... Or not even just the aliens. In fact, I was at a public library not long ago, and I overheard this woman in the next aisle, and it was wonderful. When she's talking about aliens, like, they're out there and they're watching over us, but they're sort of waiting for the human race to kind of grow up.
Okay.
And before we can enter the galactic community or what have you. And it's sort of like...
You watch Star Wars a bit too much. Or
I think,
Star Trek.
Or, something. But it was interesting because she was talking about aliens in the same way that Christians talk about Jesus, or Scientologists talk about Dianetics or what have you, as being this thing. They're these beings who are there to save us from our desolate, meaningless existence down here. Yeah. See, so a lot of these religious beliefs, not just Christianity, but a lot of other ones, sort of have a vested interest in people being really miserable, because then that's the easiest way to bring them in and say, well, here's the thing that you need in your life to not feel that way anymore. Yeah. But it's an emotional appeal. And again, all that it says to us is, sure, people who absorb these beliefs and who think they have a lot of misery and meaninglessness in their lives, who adopt these beliefs, do they get a little meaning from the beliefs they adopt? Well, sure they do. That's never in dispute. But what's in dispute is...
Hello?
Yeah.
Am I still on? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Okay. Well, I was pretty much done answering.
I appreciate your output, and I could understand where you're coming from, being on the other side of where I'm at.
Yeah.
The only thing that I got to say to you is that, you've got somebody that created you, and
I do have two people who created me. Yeah.
He's in heaven, okay? And
well,
he
no,
brought you into this world, and he's brought you into this world to find the meaning of what your life is about. And that's why he sent his son Jesus here.
Right.
There is going to come a time that he has control of our lives, that we will not be here anymore. And you don't control your own fate. You don't control your heartbeat. He controls every step of your life. And he brought you in. He could take you out anytime he wants.
Oh!
No, I'm just saying, he can take me out anytime.
Eternal granddaddy's got the shotgun on the shelf, though.
The time will come when all of us will die in this world.
Yeah.
And we will face the one that died for us and paid the price to us. And either we're going to be in, or we're going to be on the outside.
Like I said, we know you believe that.
Yeah, we've heard this
the individuals
before.
Of what our passion, what our heart and life wants.
Okay. Thanks for the reminder.
We got to move on, but keep watching, okay?
Thanks for calling.
All right. Again, we know you believe that, Tony. Yeah. Okay. But again, just repeating what you believe to us and giving emotional appeals don't equal evidence. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a big difference. You see what I meant when earlier in the show, when it's sort of like believers just have different ways of thinking about stuff than atheists and skeptics and what have you. They just approach these questions differently. Yeah. To them, faith is a valid way of deciding that you know stuff.
Yeah.
It means, and if you don't have evidence for things, then faith is perfectly fine to just insert into the gaps in your knowledge.
Yeah.
To justify believing in things you want to believe in.
And for us, faith is just a way of justifying what you already want to do.
In some cases.
Just taking a little bit of time to think about it and deciding, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and here's why I'm going to do it.
Yeah. But we appreciate, Tony calling up and you're trying to...
Definitely.
But
phone lines are open. Got a couple more callers lined up and a few more minutes left in the air. Again, a few of us are going to be going down to Players, which is
for atheists and ACA members.
Exactly, atheists, ACA members, atheists from the people watching the show. Come on down, join us. It's at Players on MLK between 35 and Guadalupe. Again, that'll be around 6:45, 7 o'clock most likely.
Yeah. That place used to be 24 hours. It was really cool.
Okay.
When I was
I don't actually remember. I don't know if I've been there before.
You probably have.
Possibly.
No, you didn't. You came here. You didn't go to school here.
No.
Yeah, that's right. You came from like up north somewhere.
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So. Damn carpetbagging Yankee.
All right. Anyway, back to phone calls. We have got Judge.
Waiting a long time.
Gentlemen, Josh, Ash, how you doing?
Pretty well.
2,000 different religions, huh?
I think so, at least.
Thereabouts.
One man's religion is another man's belly laugh.
Yep.
That's for sure. As an atheist myself, I'm tired of trying to have to disprove Christianity, and I'm not there to do that.
And and it's not your burden.
My own spiritual preference, and because I'm an atheist doesn't mean I'm not spiritual, and I want that understood as well.
Let me ask you then, though. Let me a quick question. I know you have something that you want to ask us, but I do want to. As an atheist, how do you define that term?
Define
Spirituality.
the term being spiritual.
Yeah. How do you define being spiritual?
Finding my own self-worth within myself, knowing that it's not from necessarily a higher power. I feel that finding my existence, where I fit in the plan of the world, the time, is my spiritualism. It's the way I move through time myself, and that's what my spiritualism is.
Okay.
When I was in school as a child, they said God is in everything, and I said, well, if God's in everything, then I must be God too. And they said, oh no, that's definitely wrong.
Yeah, if God is in everything, and you're just you're thinking about, well, I just came back from the bathroom. It's sort of like,
exactly.
Oh no, yeah.
Don't flush.
Yeah, so, well, I'm just glad to get your definition just really quickly because, I hear that, obviously the term spiritual, if we're not constantly being confronted with the Christian message, we are also being confronted with this whole issue of spirituality, and that it is better to seek the spiritual life. And sometimes that's given in a very, ecumenical, non-religion specific, kind of new agey way. And,
Voltaire was a spiritualist, although he was not a Christian.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I like to get people's definitions of what they mean when they talk about spirituality. And yours obviously just has to do with how do you feel fulfilled in your life, that your life is going the right direction.
Once again, I constantly find myself defending myself as an atheist, and I finally to prove that I disbelieve when everyone has a right to believe what they want, and I have nothing against a Christian or anyone else in their religions and what they want to do, but please let me freely disbelieve, and I will freely let you believe. Yeah. These atheists are not out there to disbelieve the Bible or whatever. And Martin, you're quoting the Bible, and we both know that it's rhetoric, it's a story, it's science fiction.
I know.
And you're battling on their grounds. We can't do that. Then there shouldn't be a battle in the first place. Let the Christians believe what they're going to believe, but let us too, as atheists.
But I'll tell you why.
The existence of a God or Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but I'll tell you why there is a battle, and it's not, we really aren't the ones trying to wage it, right? I mean, again, this was our most, and however you fall on the political spectrum, we try to be fairly apolitical on this show, but sometimes you can't avoid it because there are political issues brought up that in which religion is involved, and you have to realize that. This election, I think, this year turned for Bush on Karl Rove mobilizing evangelicals, and in 11 states he got anti-gay marriage amendments on the ballots. And so a lot of people went to the polls solely for that reason, okay? And in exit polls, a large number of the people who voted for Bush, whether they were those people or just general Bush voters or GOP voters, listed as their main motive underlying why they voted the way they voted, it had to do with their religious beliefs. It didn't have to be... May I just interject, because I think you're missing my message and what I said. Okay. I agree with you totally on this issue. So I'm saying there is a battle because... As a political bargaining tool. Yeah. Faith is used by deceivers. I agree that as well. Yeah, okay, what I was trying to put across, of course, is that we are... As a battleground, I'm not trying to disprove Christianity. Therefore, please don't try to make me believe other than I disbelieve. Yeah. Secondly, that we don't have separation of church and state. You're absolutely right. Everything's based. Everything I do daily is based on what a Christian believing legislature and Senate and president decides what I can do. A laundromat can stay open 24 hours a day, but of course a liquor store can't because the Christians say so. A woman can make love to a football team, but once she asks for a dime, she becomes a prostitute because the Christians say so. Britney Spears can get married for a day and a half, right? And that's okay. But a gay couple wanting to commit for life, that's evil. The Greek Senate made the largest mistake, and it was probably the best democracy ever in ancient times. And their theory was to live and let live, but then they started making judgments on people's moral values through religion. Right, and that's the issue that we have with religion. That empire was, and it's going to be the downfall of us as well. Yeah, that's all I have to say, gentlemen. And that's pretty much the issues that we have with religion too. Yeah. If everyone, like you said, were happy to believe in what they believe and let you believe what you believe, there would not be a need for this show. Yeah.
It's because they are saying, we believe and you should too, and we're going to legislate that you do.
Yeah, it's,
and we're going to legislate you do. That's when we have an issue.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if religion were this live and let live thing, but specifically in terms of, well, two of the major monotheistic religions, Christianity and Islam, are very much all about, Islam, despite what you hear, okay, there are quite a few surahs in the Quran where they talk about, smite the unbeliever and what have you.
Yeah.
And whereas evangelical Christianity doesn't always deliver that message, it's still very much, that's the nature of evangelism, right? Yeah. I mean, I think Christianity wouldn't be Christianity if it didn't have this element of evangelizing, get out there and get in people's faces.
Yeah.
Then win, belch, more converts. Because that's just the nature of it. So because that's the nature of it, we sadly just don't live in a world where, okay, I'll believe what I believe, but I'll just leave you alone to believe what you believe. I think, unfortunately, most people in the religious community aren't like that.
Yeah.
And in terms of, fighting the battle on their grounds, well, you're right, but I mean, in a certain sense. But then at the same time, I think that it cannot hurt to hold believers' feet under the fire when, like, the book that they say is infallible, you can show fallibility in it.
Yes.
You can show beliefs that contradict other beliefs. You can call them out on their moral issues by pointing out examples of godly supported immoral behavior. Yeah. So it serves a purpose to say, because in a sense it's a way of us explaining, okay, well, here's why we don't believe, and here's why we think that for you to accept this kind of thing isn't merely irrational, it's nuts, and it's potentially dangerous and bad for folks.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Again, we're live November 7th. We've got a couple minutes left in the show and a couple more callers lined up.
Good calls today, by the way. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very fun show.
And don't forget the message boards on the website, atheist-community.org. There's one for Atheist Experience, I believe.
Okay. All right. Anyway, we're going to go on to last couple of callers. We have got Ameel.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Thank you. What do you got for us?
You guys are doing a pretty good job here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just have two questions, and after I ask my questions, I'll get off the line.
Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is, what is the role of religion in social change?
Okay.
And then the second question is, what are some of your favorite philosophical writings?
Okay.
All right.
All right. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Sean. As far as social change, religion definitely has that power. It is something that will bring people together, and that can be used by other people to promote their own ideas. God would want you to do blah.
Yeah.
And so they'll promote that idea. They can get it out there, and because so many people believe in God, so many people will follow along.
Sure.
The gay marriage thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, you do have to point out. I mean, and of course, here on this program, right? This is the Atheist Experience, so we're going to bring up examples of things that we think are harmful that we don't agree with. But it does. You have to remember that the history of Western civilization is essentially the history of Christianity.
Yeah.
I mean, they have gone hand in hand, and while at the same time. You've had, there is a great deal throughout history that you can point out in which religion has, I think, been a very strong inhibitor of positive social change. There has still always been this element of religion forming communities, being the catalyst that creates a sense of community. And this, of course, predates Christianity, going all the way back to the Fertile Crescent, when, of course, the priesthood and the ruling class were one and the same.
Yeah.
Religion, while we of course reject the notion that you need that the notions of invisible magic deities are necessary for people to understand things like laws and moral behavior and justice and ethics and reason and what have you. At the same time, back 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago, at the dawn of civilization, religion did serve the useful purpose of, okay, here are the laws that we need to at least make for governance.
Yeah.
And so religion was a way of codifying those very early on. Okay. Now, it has been a very recent phenomenon in the last few centuries that you have had more secular philosophers, coming in, and saying, and of course, the secular philosophers finally crawled out of the woodwork because, ultimately the church and the organization of religion became deeply corrupted and was doing really evil, bad things. And the secular philosopher said, well, look, we have all the tools here, just using our reason, to have a civilization that works without all the supernatural baggage. So certainly, religion has been instrumental in social change for millennia.
Yeah.
We think that perhaps now in an age of science, in terms of religion now no longer really needs to be the main instrument of social change, simply because we now have
better tools.
Well, we have better we have better tools. We can reason and we can debate and we can discuss, and it's simply stronger when you have, for example, ethical systems based on reason and the whole notion of cooperation, than it is like, oh well, I have to placate this divine being who will hurt me if I'm not a nice guy. It seems to me that's a lot weaker, because this is the reason-based ethical system is like a goal to reach towards, while the other one is punishment you're hiding from. It's like something you're being chased by instead of So there's that. The only thing, of course, that religion still, as we've heard from many of our callers today, provides, of course, is this big security blanket for people who are kind of emotionally confused and haven't got the tools to reason and think critically. And I think there the role of education really needs to pick up. My favorite philosopher, I've been reading some Daniel Dennett lately.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a few chapters into Freedom Evolves.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go back and read some of his Consciousness Explained. I don't have a wide experience reading a lot of philosophers, because I think a lot of philosophy is yakety yak. Well, it is. It's. But when Derrida, Jacques Derrida, died a few months ago, he was the guy that deconstruction. He had this whole idea of like you can deconstruct writings and it was all about interpretation, right? What we just heard. And so I went and I read some of his stuff, and that guy was so full of it. It was unreal, right? But I think Daniel Dennett has some really interesting ideas on how people live, and I read Free Inquiry magazine, his articles. But unfortunately, I just don't have that much time to pour through thick philosophy tomes.
Yeah, it would be nice if I did. I do enjoy them when I do have the chance, but unfortunately, life kind of prohibits me from getting too much philosophy.
Ameel should email the TV at atheist-community.org and recommend stuff if he has some stuff to recommend.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we've got 30 minutes left. Time for one or two quick questions, perhaps.
Maybe just off the screen.
Let's go to. Let me see.
Bob is I guess sounds like he has a question about evolution. Just go to talkorigins.org.
Yeah, we don't have the time to take on that one.
Or go to evowiki.org. EVOWIKI. That's a good website.
Okay, that thing.
Okay. You want to talk?
All right. Let's go ahead and talk to Dave. You there?
Yeah. Hey guys.
What's up?
What you got?
Hey Martin. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's actually sort of weird to talk to you guys. You're on the wrong side. You need to change seats.
It's we're controlling your television.
Hi. Anyway, listen. What I'm about to suggest, you guys, please take it as completely constructive criticism.
Sure.
I'm on your side. I'm wearing my unsaved T-shirt right now that I bought because I saw Ashley wearing one.
I don't have that.
But I think it's time. I think we're in the corner here, and it's time to get more political. These guys are playing hardball now, and we have to play back.
Very true. I fully agree with you. I think that after Tuesday hit and the Democrats were reeling, and there was some suggestion that maybe they should veer more to the right now and learn to play ball. It's like no. I mean, it's time to really knuckle down, because there are some people out there who have some really discriminatory and bad ideas for the country that they want to codify into law.
Absolutely,
and that has to be stood up to.
It has to be, absolutely. See, this is where, and I'm going to go on a little thinner ice here, but you guys, you're trying to keep the show apolitical, and I can understand that, because it would probably end up, just endless arguments.
Yeah.
But maybe it's, we could focus, or you guys could focus. Point the show a little bit, put a little edge on it. Maybe we could make it a little more political.
Do you listen to the nonprofits online?
I'm sorry?
Do you listen to the nonprofits online?
No, I don't, actually.
They're the really political ACA show.
That's FD's outfit?
Yeah, they're really political.
Okay, good. I didn't know that.
They're very political.
Exactly.
We try to, on this show, at least when I was host, I think Ashley's doing the same thing, is we try to keep it mainly about atheism.
Yeah.
And like letting Christians just say, why don't you believe in God? And that.
Because otherwise this would turn into 100% political and no atheism.
And atheists don't always agree politically, as our message, as our mailing list would indicate. We get some nasty flame wars there.
Really? So there are conservative atheists?
There are some. There are some. Yeah.
We're going to have to let you go. We have got about 20 seconds left, but thanks a lot for calling.
And that's it's an excellent idea and a good point.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you very much, Martin, for coming back and helping out.
Very good to be back. I'll be back on again maybe sometime as a guest.
Yep. And again, a couple of us are going to Players on MLK between 35 and Guadalupe. We'll be there in about a half an hour or so. See you next week.